All these memories, they just bring me back to the same place. Getting crushed to death in the fist of some genetics experiment gone wrong. Not the way I thought I'd go out. Shame, really. Now that we've got this big gang, more like a pack of misfits. Either way, we'd become a team. We had some real potential there. Could have pulled off some big jobs. We were so close. The door to the Cooper Vault was opening. But that Dr. M, if there's any justice, he'll get his. I just wish I'd seen what was in there. A stockpile of my family's accomplishments. Would I have measured up? What would I contribute? Would my father have been proud of me or ashamed? Can't take this crushing. Just let the pain stop.
Welcome, everyone and everything, to Honor Among Thieves. That opening cutscene is the best Sly has ever had. I love that for once, it's not about the villain. It's not about Dr. M's backstory, it's not about our newest recruit. For the very first time, it's not about the job at hand, it's just about Sly. His regrets, his internal struggle, and it tells a really important story. The treasure of the vault is almost meaningless in the face of what it represents. His legacy, something concrete he can finally measure himself against, to see if he truly lived up to the Master Thief title he was supposed to inherit. And as his thoughts drift to what he has to be ashamed of, he can only focus on one regret.
Funny, but here I am at the end, and suddenly all I can think about is what a coward I've been towards Carmelita. I never took the next step. Looking at Bentley and Penelope, it's clear what life is about. If Carmelita was here, I'd tell her straight out how I feel, and quit playing around. Put our professional differences aside and see if we can make it work. But that'll never happen now.
Here we are at the end of the road for the third time, and twice now, he's taken the opportunity to perpetuate the chase, to let his guard down and be real with Carmelita, only to make another bold getaway. Now, with his back against the wall, sure that the opportunity will never knock again, he sees it as his greatest failure. Now, there aren't too many details to pick apart here, though something odd I noticed was this little mark on some of the shots in that montage. I think it's some sort of tracking graphic from whatever software they use to animate these cutscenes. Hard to say. Two of these shots are also a little altered from how they looked in-game. This one from the outro of Australia, and this one from the intro to Holland. Also worth noting, this flash of Carmelita is from Goodbye My Sweet, which I suppose does confirm that chocolate bar heist as canon. This shot of each of the members of the gang fading away accompanies them with sound effects to represent their skills. An explosion, bubbles, punching, mystical chimes, an airplane motor, and that sound green computer screens make in 90s movies.
We'd become a team. We had some real potential there. Could have pulled off some big jobs.
This is also the only spot I can think of to bring this up. Back in the run-up to Sly 3's release, Sucker Punch showed off the opening cutscene from the beginning at the end, though it opened a little differently. Check it out.
It was like they always say, your life really does flash before your eyes. There it all was, stretching back to my childhood.
Obviously, only those directly involved could tell us everything about this change. Looks like he got flung from some kind of explosion, but I really appreciate the change because I think the monster's claw does a way better job of visualizing Sly's mortality, the crushing inevitability of death, as opposed to having already been through the worst of it. Of course, it's also interesting how prevalent Bentley and Penelope are in this scene. They get a major focus in the flashbacks, they're the last two to fade away, and of course, this line.
Looking at Bentley and Penelope, it's clear what life is about.
Bentley and Penelope's relationship serves a really eye-opening role for Sly. One thing that's pretty easy to poke fun at when it comes to the expanded Cooper gang is how much of a sausage fest it is. We're definitely not passing the Bechdel test here, but that's not inherently a bad thing. Penelope is simply confident in pursuing what it is she wants. More confident than Sly, evidently, and in a lot of ways, she's not the only one. Oh hey, we know the opening heist officially took exactly 21 minutes, so that's less time than it took me, that's for sure. This opening shot is probably the best cinematography the Sly games have ever displayed in 3D. I love the framing of every reveal, especially this shot of Sly through the gap in the rocks, and it feels especially significant that this episode's title card is the vault door, and the first thing we see here is the key.
Lieutenant Gronk, get your squad together. We're about to see some action.
Yes, ma'am. Lock and load, you eggs. We're going in.
Starting off strong with a Carmelita mission. No safe house, no hub, we're going in.
Hold on, Pigtail.
And I might as well tell you now, Honor Among Thieves, the episode, not the game, is a resonant callback to a cold heart of hate from the first game. As before, we do away with the traditional format the rest of the game has adhered to, and undertake a linear progression of levels so Sucker Punch can maintain a firmer grip on the plot. And the parallels do not stop there. Once upon a time, Sly took it upon himself to rush to Carmelita's aid when she was in danger, and now it's her turn. Even the names of these missions are a neat reflection of each other. As for this boss fight against, the only official name I can find on this guy is Mutant Primate. Though he's not terribly primordial, he appears to have the arms of a sloth, the legs and tail of some kind of reptile or dinosaur, and the head of an elephant seal. Anyway, this is a pretty cool fight. It feels super dynamic to see all of Carmelita's mercs rushing into combat as you fire away, and to see them systematically annihilated. Second time this year, Carmelita, that's gonna be a lot of paperwork. The fact that he's using our own men as projectiles against us is both brutal and clever. As they die, they get replaced by reinforcements from inside the boat, and you can see the doors they pop out of if you pay attention. If you try to stand on it though, you get knocked away. I don't think they quite made this jump too far to make, but they did put an invisible wall over there, which is kind of rude. Before we take this bad boy on in earnest, this is a rare fight where losing has a unique cutscene. Sly just gets vored. I know the results for losing are never canon, but wow, I would not have expected them to animate that. I imagine this was done to really drive home this Carmelita hero moment, but this is probably the easiest mission we've undertaken as her. Just move and shoot. He's accurate, but he's so far away there's no way for him to lead his shots. Once you get him almost halfway down, he'll change tactics and break apart the land and wedge a barrier in front of the boat, forcing you to relocate. Then he'll start throwing these new goons on these zip lines to deal with you instead.
So, you've got friends. I've got a shock pistol. Where are you?
According to their concept art, these are called swarmers. Head of an alligator, arms of a stone crab, and though I always thought their feet looked very chicken-esque, they are apparently kangaroo legs. This is a unique variant of this type of guard though. They all die in one hit, no matter what too, even each other, which is fun. They're easy enough to ignore if that's more your speed. The only awkward thing here is that the big guy doesn't do anything once you hit the spawn cap of 5. Once you pass that phase, he knocks down these Tesla coil looking things, which electrifies the platform. Kind of. But since it's Carmelita, who is so often too tough for such things, it will just insta-kill you if you hang around here for too long. This is one of the only ways you can see her electrocution animation, but only if it works the way it's intended.
You're an unexpected annoyance. Do me a favor and hold still while I smash the life out of you.
I could absolutely do that, Doc, but unfortunately your big beastie has some pretty glaring blind spots in his attacks, so I'm not sure how much it'll help. The monster has some funky collision on his back that's just solid enough for you to stand on, and that is by far the coolest way to tackle this final phase.
You harpy witch! Why are the police invading my home?
I'm here to see that justice is done.
Justice? I'm the victim here, defending what's mine from thieves!
Looked to me like you were attempting to murder that man.
That man, please, you know this is Sly Cooper. You're as transparent as you are narrow-minded.
Cooper is a criminal. I'm here to bring him and all lawbreakers to justice.
I'm no lawbreaker. It was all self-defense.
First things first. Put Cooper down and we'll talk terms.
Sorry, Madam Cop, I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. Although I can throw you a long, long way. Go and smash that woman. Crush her bones to paste and toss her in the sea where no one will ever find her.
Most missions we'll be taking on here have a Master Thief challenge attached. Though before I take this one on, I haven't drawn any attention to the descriptions attached here because they're all pretty bog standard stuff. But this one's clever. Her most wanted criminal. Aww. Okay, Beauty versus the Beast. Kinda weird they used that reference twice. Despite the uncharacteristically strict time limit, there's not much room for optimization here. There is some highly advanced Carmelita tech speedrunners use, where you can cancel her landing animation by attacking, cancel her attack animation by jumping, then shoot twice in a single jump, enabling you to nearly double her rate of fire with precise enough timing. I only got it to work once, so I have no idea how these people nail it like 200 times in a row, but I am not a speedrunner. This is well established.
Now to find that cane. I can't believe this idiot just brought it to me. He looks just like his father, and he's just as dead.
Sly! He's over here! He's still breathing? He's alive!
Okay, so we got Sly back. He is not dead. Huge. Now for the cane.
Although he's suffered a major concussion. If he were up and about, I'm sure he'd want us to retrieve his family cane.
Go grab the thing. Jump in, do the swim, and take it. Legit, eh, my main man, bro?
Won't be that simple. That's an electromagnetic buoy. Dr. M has set 'em up all around the island to snag approaching metal boats. We just lucked out that we came here in a wooden ship.
I'll be honest, this line has always stuck out to me. Even as a kid, I thought it was cool, like, heck yeah, perks of the pirate ship, not too shabby. But Bentley had been considering every security measure. You're telling me he didn't account for these buoys and that this was just luck? I don't think so. Hype your man up, Penny. This was all part of the plan as far as I'm concerned. Alright, our plan to circumvent the freaking magnets is to send the Guru and a whole shiver of sharks to destroy it. And this is where some of the unavoidable problems in this episode rear their heads. First and foremost, contrivance. We have cannons. It's hard to ignore, they're literally on screen, so maybe just shoot the buoy? But no, obviously we're doing things this way because this is our final lap, as it were. We want to give everyone one last chance to shine. Which leads to our second issue. Though playing as Carmelita is always a welcome departure, we really hit the ceiling on what the Guru was capable of on his own ages ago. I'd love to see more of this, and if we flash back to the beginning of the end, he, under the alias of Agent Old Rock, pulled this off, and maybe incorporating that skill set into gameplay would have been more what I'm looking for at this point, but instead we're doing a lot of what we did back in Rumble Down Under. The additional stakes of falling into water being an instant fail is an escalation, but none of the hazards surpass those bear traps from Holland. They can all be dealt with by using the advanced tech of jumping, and your shark can tank so many hits, even that's barely necessary. And our third issue, the Panda King Erasure, my god.
You're the only member of the team who doesn't carry metal equipment.
I mentioned back when we were attacking a Kraken, that was his last mission, and he will be the only gang member whose gameplay is not represented here on Cane Island. Even though I don't see any metal here, but maybe I just don't know enough about fireworks. Sorry, Agent Monarch, you really didn't deserve this kind of snub. As for the mission itself, some cool details here and there. These sharks, though plainly a reused model, are not the same we saw in the Caribbean, or even the ones we saw in these very waters in the inaugural mission. My guess would be that these are intended to be more of Dr. M's hybrid, given that no species of shark has a pattern like this. Also, there's a visual glitch that can happen in the PS3 version where half these textures don't load, which gives them this sort of rotted ghoul aesthetic that's actually quite creepy. There are invisible walls surrounding every landmass around here, making it impossible to safely dismount your shark anywhere but the buoy, and there's a trigger that will force you to turn around if you swim too far out, but other than that, you can swim anywhere around the island. Really tour the space. Just above us is the unused tutorial area with the rope leading over the wall. Then, if you look to your left, you'll see where Sly nearly had the life crushed out of him, which triggered the flashbacks that encapsulated the events of this game. And if you'll turn your attention to the waters below, you'll see the bubbles that were once emitted by Agent Deep Six, better known to the Cooper Gang as Dimitri. Now, since nearly that entire mission sees us mounted up and there are no guards to spot us, you probably wouldn't think to disguise yourself at any point, and the devs probably hoped you wouldn't, because for the first time, the Guru only has one transformation, and it's a rock reused from Australia, not quite at home with any of the local sediment. The scene that closes out this mission is shot super weird.
It's okay, Guru. The cane's not lost. We've got a diver on the team, remember?
For some reason, Bentley is just off-screen while he talks. They don't put the radio filter on his voice, so is this like a POV shot?
No one else could have got the cane off that magnet. You're a credit to the team. Just leave your shark friends behind. They freak me out.
Bentley's tending to Sly. He wanted me to prep you for the mission.
Oui. The turtle dude made sounds for les scuba. So here you go, baby. Dimitri natural. Woo! Your plan? She's worked to perfection.
My plan to get you alone in a swimsuit?
Come clean, my lovely, and play your cards straight. These are dangerous waters, and I'm a big, strong, macho man.
Okay, first, get over yourself. Second, I mean it, get over yourself. And third, jump into that water and find Sly's cane. It's the key to the Cooper Vault. We can't lose it.
Salty language from such sweet lips. I die, baby. I die for the love.
What can I add? That scene was so perfectly written and delivered, I got nothing. Okay, so our second and final mission as Dimitri changes things up significantly. We no longer have control of our camera, instead we're locked front-facing and the left stick controls our target reticle. Then this opening section is basically Dance Dance Revolution. Avoid the giant crab claws by hitting the right button at the right time. They get pretty quick, but once you get a feel for the timing, this is one of the easiest DDR levels I've ever played, and when we get to the end of the tunnel we'll find the owner of those claws. This boss is known as the Mutant Fish, with the head of an angler or viper fish, the aforementioned crab claws, and as we'll get a very close look at in one of his attacks, giant jellyfish tendrils. Our camera is still locked forward. Our goal is to strafe around the hazards in this fight while steadily chipping away at Dr. M plonked in his Eska. This can get pretty tricky, especially when he does that one attack that comes standard with all deep sea bosses. If I had a nickel. It's not super clear that what you're meant to do is wait until Dr. M's shield drops and shoot him to interrupt the attack. But on the whole, I do think this fight utilizes Dimitri's diving mechanics way better than his first outing. There are advantages to using both the fast maneuvers and the slower, more precise ones to evade all these hazards, though moving the reticle around the screen feels a little weak. I can illustrate this best when the fish switches out its claws for giant laser cannons in its final phase. These things can be avoided by swimming circles around the guy, or you can interrupt them by shooting the arms. However, since the depth of field is really off, aiming directly at them will cause you to miss. You have to aim a little bit inward of where you're trying to hit, and there's really no excuse for that. As for fun details, we don't have that much freedom down here, but I am amused by the fact that we can destroy these various stalags, even while the explosives can't. Also, if you can parse Dr. M's warbled speech, he does have a few interesting things to say. I don't know if it was intentional for him to be this flippy-floppy, but it does fit what we know of how manic he is. I thought perhaps you might be able to destroy these cannons given enough shots, but despite the very damaged-looking animation, this is solely for the purpose of resetting their attack pattern. That does make this the easiest phase if you get the positioning down, but that's tough enough to do that it feels more like a reward than your standard cheese. Once more, by manipulating the code, we can run around here on foot, and the most interesting thing about this is that it seems everything underwater operates on a much larger scale than above. Look at how huge Dr. M is. Dimitri has to be enormous for this to fit. I also would have thought this watery tunnel was some sort of looping structure, but no, the whole thing is here, and looks pretty cool too. Last thing in the depths, I found that there are a lot more destructibles than there's any reason to be, but one potentially useful example are these giant crab claws. I tried shooting them as Dimitri, but the problem is, we're actually moving faster than his projectiles right now, so the timing to break these claws before you hit them is way more precise than just avoiding them. It is possible though, I did manage it once or twice.
That road dude threw down heavyweight. I had him solid, but he ran, baby. Ran! And now I'm flat nowhere.
You were magnificent. Alone against a creature trapped in an undersea cave.
How about a kiss for Monsieur Magnificento?
Magnificento? Magnificent-oh? Wouldn't that be like closer to Italian? Nah, I don't get it.
I'm Mac to the Jack to the Iverson, baby!
Sly, you're up.
He should be back in bed after the thrashing he took. Another blow to the head and your brain could snap.
Quit your worrying. I feel fine. Did Dimitri find my cane?
No, Dr. M managed to get away with it.
Then we gotta go.
I have to praise this level for the fact that it never betrays its tone. It's cartoonishly bizarre, the antics we're getting up to, fighting off enormous biomechanical mutants by sequentially using every offbeat tool at our disposal, but the characters all treat it with such weight you can't help but be taken in.
Smash the drones, siphon their power, and fry the tower's matrix.
Perfect. Let's get your car onto a drone patrol pipe.
Not to be too obvious in exposing my ignorance, but what in the world are you two talking about?
Explaining it would include a lot of multisyllabic words. I could just show you.
Bring on the demo.
This line has always made me think of this one from the first game.
If my knowledge of mechanical engineering serves me right, applying significant rotational torque to achieve maximum velocity will yield a positive result.
You mean something good might happen if I can get the wheel to spin fast enough?
Isn't that what I just said?
It's probably not worth reading into. I'm sure Sly's head just hurts. Penelope's up, aiming to take out the radar towers around the island, and running with her new side-graded RC car. Since Bentley never gave her back her turret after attaching it to his grapple cam, she's outfitted it with these bumpers straight out of Speed Racer. And you know something? They're way more fun. Punting these drones off the track with precise timing and positioning is so satisfying. And it's the first time you really get to open up the throttle without having to worry about hazards. It's no Mario Kart, but I'm having a good time. Easily the coolest thing you can pull off here is hitting a drone in mid-air. Ooh, that's the good stuff. For all that, it's pretty simple goings. These power puffs dropped by the drones restore your health, so there's not much call to be that careful. I did happen upon one interesting detail, which is that if one of these enemy drones gets stuck upside down, they just self-destruct. Unfortunately, this doesn't count as you destroying them, but it is amusing. You can also pull off a completely useless shortcut from this big jump on the last course. By going off of it slow enough, you can land on this pipe here. As for how this works under the hood, there are always a set amount of drones on each track, 3 on the first and second, and 4 on the third. When you destroy one, it immediately respawns a set distance ahead of you, so there's no faster way to do this than racing after them. Though if you wanted to just wait in place, that is an option.
Fantastic!
One of my favorite Master Thief challenges, Road Rage. Destroy 16 drones on the final course without the aid of health pickups. This is just solid fun, especially since the more time you spend on one track, the more likely the drones are to get all clumped up together, until eventually you can pull off some really cool, combos. Getting a high score here is entirely down to how well you can avoid damage. Stay out from directly behind the cars and take every turn as close to the inside as you can, and you should have no trouble getting that target score of 16. But the further you get past that, the more inevitably you'll start taking pot shots. My best score without the aid of the Mystic Arts was 49. Not half bad, but this is our last one which tracks your score this way. I want to see it at 1,000.
With the guided missiles offline, we've got a chance at air superiority here.
I'm in. I've rested long enough.
You sure?
This is my legacy we're fighting for. You think I want to sit this one out?
Why, thank you, Sly. I was waiting for a good buzzword like that to start digging into the meat and potatoes here. Legacy is a powerful motivator. With only faith to tell us what happens next, a legacy is the closest thing we've got to immortality down here on Earth. And as such, mankind has developed an incredible fixation on fame, an impact, something we leave behind. The Cooper lineage is an extraordinary paradox spiraling around that idea. A family whose name is famous worldwide, whose deeds stretch back to the times of pharaohs, yet what they're famous for is inherently clandestine. Subterfuge, larceny, grand theft, and with each passing achievement, though they further the knowledge they have to hand down to the next in line, they also create ever-mounting obstacles for them to overcome. Remember how Sal figured us out on sight because that great reputation preceded us. Maybe overcoming those challenges would yield even greater accolades, but this isn't sustainable. How long before we're Octavio, clinging to tradition for tradition's sake as we're pulled below the ever-shifting tides of progress? Or Lefouille, with the reputation for being the best in a profession hundreds of years out of date? Or Penelope, defined by the celebrity of our success and pressured to perpetuate it by any means necessary? Sly is fighting tooth and nail for something he sees as bigger than him, but to what end? Nothing better for a concussion than some good old-fashioned G-forces, am I right? I certainly wasn't expecting us to still have the plane at this point, based on the fact we took the pirate ship here. That means we must have somehow had it with us in Bloodbath Bay, which in turn means it had to have accompanied us on the cruise ship getting there. Maybe Dimitri stashed it for us back when we left Holland. Pretty clutch of him, honestly. This challenge requires a lot more maneuvering finesse than the dogfights did. You might actually get some use out of barrel rolling here. And the only ammo around is in some pretty tight spaces. I also got a kick out of trying to fly along the tracks we were just racing on, which are just barely wide enough, but the game in no way asks you to do this. It does give us a sense of just how far the RC car was jumping in that mission, but at the end of the day, this is basically a cartoon, so I'll let it slide. The last thing I messed around with was seeing if there were any unorthodox breakables on the island. but apart from the antenna on the guard towers, I didn't find anything we haven't been able to break from the ground. My most interesting finds were the unique particle effects on the collapsed lab entrance and the security station. Breaking these turrets shouldn't take more than an attempt or two once you get into a rhythm with their firing rates. The only tip I can offer is to clear the outer ones first to essentially minimize the number targeting you at any given time, but that was pretty simple.
Great work, Sly! Looks like you really stirred up the hornet's nest. They're launching fighters!
These bat enemies might not be hybrids, but based on what I think are legs here, I think they're partially some sort of hexapod, or indeed, perhaps hornets. Their concept art drew them as part chameleon, with another input for Dr. M to control them directly, but their models are much simpler.
Those bats have some sort of shield on them. Your cannon won't work. Fortunately, I've upgraded your plane with a missile launcher.
The missile launcher that we suddenly have attached to our plane is really bizarre. We had it during the turret section, but each rocket does the same amount of damage as one bullet, so it would take 3 to destroy anything we're aiming at up here. Now that's not the only upgrade they've made to our plane. Our firing rate is also significantly faster, easily doubled. My guess is Penelope got her hands on it. On the subject of bullets, I want to thank the many of you who educated me back in Holland. I mentioned that right behind the propeller seemed like a pretty bad spot for a gun, but a lot of you guys let me know that planes with that design usually attached the firing mechanism to the propeller itself to ensure that the bullets only fired when the blade was out of the way. That's extremely neat. I want to especially shout out Ultrabot Ultimus for being the first to let me know about it. Now these bats do feel more volatile than the dogfighters, but not by much. It's the shield that really mixes things up. I wanted to see how well the Toonami Plane's missiles fared here, but it seems locked for this particular mission despite the successful input sound on the menu. Odd.
That's the last of them. Oh boy, here comes the big guns. And by guns, I mean a giant flying whale dragonfly thing covered in robotic junk. Wait, Dr. M is plugged into that monstrosity.
Yeah, I got nothing to add to that description, Bentley. This is quite a thing.
Nice! Tiny velvets likes to play second fiddle. I am the master here. Sidekick no more.
Dr. M's Sky Whale is a fun boss fight. I'm especially fond of these super trippy light rays he dares you to fly through, both visually impressive and oppressive. The limit on our ammo has finally been lifted too, making this a bit of catharsis in its own way as we can really just open fire. But I think this is the point where M's monstrosities start to feel kind of perverse. This line in particular puts that certain pit in my stomach. If this whalefly had vocal cords, well, he certainly did at some point, and you ripped them out in the name of the depraved art you call science. The Island of Dr. Moreau tells the story of a once-respected psychologist who secretly conducted experiments with vivisections. Ostracized from society when they came to light, he isolated himself on the eponymous island where he continued his experiments on both local wildlife and creatures he had imported. His ultimate yet impossible goal, his own Cooper Vault, was the achievement of turning an animal into a full-fledged human. His failures all bore animal traits and inevitably reverted to animalistic behaviors. The story has powerful themes of humanity and depravity, as Dr. Moreau is fully desensitized to the suffering he causes. He believes pain and the uncomfortable response to it are both base animal instincts to be left behind. The true irony being that in his quest to create humanity and surrounded by half-beasts, he is the least human among them. Now Dr. M is far from a direct adaptation of that character, but the irony at the center remains. He is a victim of his own efforts, as paranoia, envy, and hatred have twisted him into something no more humane than these wretched chimeras. But what brought him here? This is certainly as little to do with the actual treasure as it is for Sly. There's something deeper going on.
Headstrong, just like your father.
You don't know anything about me or my father.
Really? Who let you in on the secret of this place, eh? Was it my old pal McSweeney, perhaps?
McSweeney works for you? This was all a setup to get the cane.
No, my boy. Once upon a time, he and I worked together for your dear old dad.
This was brilliantly foreshadowed. We could see Dr. M's silhouette in the game's opening cutscene, and we could extrapolate that Dad's gang had a similar dynamic to ours, with the thief, the muscle, and the brains. If at any point you questioned how Dr. M even found out about the island and the vault, You probably put this together yourself, which always feels pretty cool.
Time does strange things to people. Just look at the real leader of your gang, Bentley.
Whatever. We're friends. Equal.
Then why is it called the Cooper Gang, you self-centered egomaniac?
That's enough.
Finally got our cane back, and one detail that's never given central focus are these counterfeit canes surrounding the vault. They look to be exact replicas, and yet something about ours works where these all failed. As far as the cane goes, this little free fall from our plane to the whale is the only segment of the game where you can play as Sly without his cane. You can attack and swing the lack of it around, which is funny, but especially odd is what happens if you try to use his triangle dive bomb. You can see that his wrist just spins around like it's on a ball bearing. Dear God, Sly. There's also a Master Thief challenge associated with that last fight, but it's absolutely no trouble. The best tactic is to simply ignore the rocket launchers and let them self-destruct as you move between phases. You can use your own rockets to potentially speed up the process, but even that might be overkill, since you can take a few hits here and there. This should quite literally be over in seconds. The cold, silent opening of the vault this time feels really deliberate when compared to the first attempt. An anticlimax? No, not quite. More like an empty victory. Sly stands at the precipice of everything we've been working for, and this time, he realizes that he doesn't want to go it alone.
Bentley, you there?
Yeah, pal?
I'm about to head inside the vault, and I want you and Murray to come with me. We're a team, a family. We should do this together.
Okay, be right up, partner.
Well, this place is amazing!
Yeah, it's gotta be like at least 100 years old.
An archaeological marvel!
Glad you boys are impressed, because it looks like I'll have to go on from here alone.
Do it, Sly. This place was built for you. We'll hold down the fort here.
I find myself daunted by the task of writing about the Cooper Vault. It's everything this series has been building up towards, to see what our family title as Master Thief is worth. The stakes presented to us at the outset of our first adventure were strictly based on our legacy. By the end, there was no doubt we'd earned it. A triumph in the face of those who had simply been handed what we were given the opportunity to fight for. In the second game, the threat of clockwork still loomed over us, and any potential future we might strive for. We struggled against those smarter than us, stronger than us, more devious, all so we could protect that legacy and champion it for generations to come. And now, we finally get to see the material sum of what we've been defending. This single level has more to say without a word of dialogue than any of this series' cutscenes. An eon of history preserved in these caves, the dusty portraits of our ancestors staring down upon us, the overwhelming weight of their accomplishments literally piled in mountains of gold. But it's no museum. This is an obstacle course. A gauntlet of trials prepared to test any who would dare call themselves Cooper. The message is clear. Are you worthy? Can you prove yourself? Do your abilities match up? Would anyone even notice the riches you've gathered if you added them to the masses? It's an unfeasibly high bar. The music here tells the story incandescently. Sly's leitmotif plays every role in the performance. A tender flute wandering into the grandeur, a fleck of silver glimmering among an orchestra of golden brass, the fanfare rising and rising, a choir adding their voices to the crescendo threatening to crush everything until it collapses under the weight of its own prestige. Leaving just that flute to wander the ruins. The vault itself seems convinced of its own affluence, its own importance, and yet, why? Why is it here? Any Cooper worthy of getting this far couldn't possibly need the wealth, instead continuing to hollow out this mountain and fill it with yet more trophies. This isn't inheritance. This isn't for the benefit of future generations to enjoy. It's a titanic gilded measuring stick that only becomes more impossible to meet with every contribution. Is this really what we fought for after all? We scrapped and failed and killed for another chance to prove ourselves? But man, is this place fun to dive into. There is so much lore and so many details we are going to be here for a minute. If you're playing on the modern releases, get into the habit right away of destroying all the spiderwebs you see, as there's a trophy for destroying 30 of them. But let's start with Slytunkhamen II.
This place was started by Slytunkhamen II. He built his fortune in the employ of the great pharaohs. That must have been around 1300 BC.
This is not the same Slytunkhamen who wrote his methods of invisibility in the Thieves Raccoonus. This would be his son, and it seems the founder of the Cooper Vault, though these dual cane kopeshes were probably the very same used by his father. And we can extrapolate a fair bit from this. Sly's cane was most likely created for the sole purpose of being the key to the vault. And as we've seen in every introductory cutscene, every Cooper except for Sly and his father created their own signature cane for carrying out their art. In addition, almost every member of the clan who has a shrine in here is based loosely on some historical or mythical figure, even if only in namesake. Slytunkhamen is easy. His name is based on Tutankhamen, one of the most famous Egyptian pharaohs, though neither Slytunkhamens were pharaohs themselves. Here's a big surprise: I don't read hieroglyphics. But not to fear, I can be reasonably confident that no one at Sucker Punch could either, and we're likely just drawing something that looked convincing. While at least one of these images lines up with what I could find on real Egyptian obelisks, that being the symbol for Thoth, the god of the moon and magic, most of them either don't match or are too generic to go one way or the other. But it raises an interesting question. Obelisks adorned this way are guideposts to the dead. The hieroglyphics are a spell intended to ease their passage to the afterlife, so is this a tomb? This little Anubis right here is a sarcophagus. Is it just something fancy Slytunkhamen stole, or is his mummy in there? We won't know for sure, but perhaps this place's founder never intended it to be a vault, but a necropolis where he and his family could secure their belongings for their journey to the Field of Reeds. Of course, that's all conjecture.
Sir Galeth of the Knights of the Cooper Order. Honorable knight and cunning thief.
Sir Galeth Cooper is likely a reference to Sir Galahad, sometimes called Galeth, one of the Knights of King Arthur's Round Table, which is of course what this sword in the stone is a reference to. You can see in all his pictures that he was actually left-handed, which, as I said, is always just that little bit cooler, and his cane seems to be elongated to function as a lance. Now I have no idea if this was intentional or not, but you're not generally allowed to joust left-handed in a tournament setting. Of course, it'd be fair game during a war, but depending on the culture, it could still have been seen as fighting dirty. I'm also very fond of the different mediums each Cooper's picture is on. The first was a stone tablet, and this one's a banner. Last detail for Galeth, this symbol etched on the stonework around here has a lot of different names, but in context, this is what you'd call a wake knot, named because it was the heraldic symbol of Hereward the Wake, an Anglo-Saxon hero who fought to repel the Norman conquest at the beginning of the last millennium. We could probably read into this, but I'd worry about misrepresenting the history over something that in all likelihood was just intended as a fancy stone carving. More than any other, this level feels like it came straight out of the original game. A pure, perilous platforming promenade designed to test every Master Thief skill Sly has, with the awkward exception of ice climbing. Hey Bentley, do we ever want to talk about how you risked altering this 3,000-year-old relic and we're lucky it still functions as a key to the vault after that? This kind of bookending is really brilliant. This level oozes Sly's very DNA, the platforming strengths that built the series and the narrative aspects that defined it, working in perfect tandem. Salim Al-Kupar is next.
Salim Al-Kupar of Arabia. It was said that he had the stealth of 40 thieves.
Literally everyone makes the joke, wow, so he must have been really loud. And you know something, you're all a bunch of smooth-brained parrot-loving anchorheads. This is one of my favorite jokes in the series. Salim Al-Kupar is based off of the 40 Thieves from 1001 Nights, the same story Disney's Aladdin originates from. However, the twist here is that Salim was the 40 Thieves. He was such a great thief and stole treasure in such volume that his feats were attributed to an entire band of rogues. What a Chad. He also has several elements of Aladdin. He's depicted here riding a flying carpet. And of course he's got this golden lamp, which heavily implies that he may have had the help of a djinn back in his day. But hey, we hired the guru, so we can hardly judge. And finally, his cane has slightly more exaggerated curves, and is based on a scimitar.
The strongest of the Cooper clan, Slay McCooper, could break any lock with a single blow.
Slay McCooper is easily the hardest to place in terms of historical parallels. I figure he's somewhere between William Wallace and Rob Roy McGregor. The former, a Celtic-Scottish war hero whose legend grew to be larger than life, and the latter affectionately referred to as the Scottish Robin Hood. But he also has elements of a Viking, what with this shield and these Norse runes on his tapestry. This text is a bit of a mystery though. As best I can match up, these are Isaz Burkanen Kaunen Isaz Fehu Burkanen, which is Ibgifb. And this might come as a shock, that doesn't mean anything. His concept art has a few more runes, but I checked and they're equally nonsensical. He kinda looks like a saber-toothed tiger here, but that's just his floppy hat. Dude was built like a mountain. He probably could have used arcane as a toothpick. Oh darn, Slay knew how to make a security measure, didn't he? I just can't overcome something like this. It's too much fun. How can I be expected to stop?
The Ninja Spire landing was perfected in feudal Japan by Ryoichi Cooper.
Ryoichi Cooper, the very first we ever saw in the old book's pages, is named after Ryoichi Hasegawa. Not an especially historical figure, but he's listed in the first game's credits under very special thanks. I don't know why they couldn't especially thank him for what he actually did, leading me on a goose chase to find out for myself, but he was the game's localization producer. Ryoichi Cooper does have a pretty clean historical parallel though in Ishikawa Goemon, a very famous rogue who is also often referred to as the Robin Hood of his culture. A descendant of Goemon is portrayed in Lupin III alongside the titular main character, who was a major inspiration for Sly himself, and that's just neat. This Japanese looks awfully similar to some Chinese I translated a few episodes ago. You ain't slick, Sucker Punch, I caught you. I adore that this bonsai model is identical to the one the Guru transforms into in China, and his dual canes look a bit like Sai. An amusing thing about his little spire jump challenge is that these ceiling swords are completely intangible, not even a little bit of a concern. Next up is Henriette One-Eyed Cooper, who I want to circle back to later. Don't worry, she's one of my favorites too. She's a fitting one to skip because while most everyone else's path forward won't activate until you've checked out their pedestal, hers has no such restriction, and you can just run on through this crawling challenge. This is also hysterical. You can destroy these overturned boats and make this stretch completely impossible. And no, shadow power doesn't work. I checked.
Tennessee Kid Cooper learned to slide along railroad tracks in the Old West.
Tennessee Kid Cooper was always my favorite from the first game based simply on his design. What a cocky rake, what a hellraiser. I feel like this guy walks into a saloon and everyone reacts, good or bad. Plus, you gotta love the gumption of immortalizing yourself in the ancestral halls using your own wanted poster. Another easy parallel, he's based on Billy the Kid, a famous American outlaw who I figure was probably not as successful as Tennessee, but I imagine they made the wanted price the same for the sake of the reference. One more cute detail here, the state animal of Tennessee is a raccoon. I don't know if that was on purpose, but I wouldn't put it past him. Oh, come on, Tennessee, man, you can't do this to me, your own flesh and blood.
Victorian-era London was the stomping grounds for the most gentlemanly thief, Thaddeus Winslow Cooper.
Thaddeus Winslow Cooper III is the one we're probably more familiar with than any other, thanks to getting a close look at one of his entries in the Thievius Raccoonus during Goodbye My Sweet. As the gentleman thief of the Cooper clan, he's the most likely candidate to be based on Arsène Lupin, but given the nationality, maybe AJ Raffles would be a better fit for essentially being a slightly less known but significantly more British gentleman thief. Also, considering his many dealings with Scotland Yard, it's possible Moriarty is in the mix as well. My favorite detail here is that if you look at his portrait, you'll see he has a nearly identical painting in frame with him. It's probably his dad, presumably Thaddeus Winslow Cooper, the Oilers' number. It's possible this jeweled chalice is something, but short of the Holy Grail, I can't think what. Thaddeus probably has my favorite stretch of the gauntlet, especially this sequence of gigantic hammers you have to carefully ladder your way up. Doesn't feel particularly gentlemanly, but maybe it's attributed to Otto von Cooper since his section is right here.
Besides being a thief, Otto von Cooper was a great fighter ace and mechanic.
The last of the Coopers we learned of in Sly's first foray, and easily the least popular because we never get an idea of what he did outside his planes. And while the fact he built them is undoubtedly impressive, it makes it look like the machine is doing all the work. His influence is undoubtedly Otto Lilienthal, whose experiments with heavier-than-air aircraft actually predate those of the Wright brothers, though in terms of when he was probably active as an ace pilot, he may be based loosely on the Red Baron, who we've already discussed. I do love the idea of Penelope basing her alter ego on one of Sly's ancestors, though. Which brings us to the most recent contribution.
This must be my father's work.
Sly's father is never seen above the shoulder, and never named directly within the series. He does have a widely accepted name, though, which is Connor. How we came to know this is a bit convoluted. Back when Disney was cool, they ran a kids magazine that tended to showcase just about anything popular, and Sly was featured in it, in a playful interview with him directly. One of the questions asked was what his middle name was, to which he said it was Connor, named after his father. Now, these Disney interviews weren't canon, they weren't directly overseen by an official from Sucker Punch, they were just for fun, but for lack of any better answer, the fandom picked it up. And then, in 2010, when the Sly collection released, Brady Games worked directly with Sly to make an official guidebook for all three, and Connor's name is listed in its pages as a fun factoid. Now, it's worth noting that by 2010, Sucker Punch no longer had any control of the Sly IP. It always belonged to Sony, and they had willingly stepped back as its sole developer. So while it is canon as far as Sony is concerned, no one who wrote for the original trilogy had a say in this decision. But again, for lack of any alternative, Connor's as good a name as any. I love the details about here perhaps most of all. The empty pedestal where a cane should go feels especially forlorn, and the use of the art from the beginning of the first game as this portrait is not lost on me. Take a look at this computer screen next to him for a moment, and the words "Hello World" will briefly flash on screen, which is a programming reference I'm not quite technologically literate enough to explain cleanly, but here I go. Basically, a Hello World program is something you can set up and run on anything capable of displaying text. It can be used as a diagnostic tool or proof of concept, but it got its start back in the 70s for being something simple that almost anything can run, and almost any aspiring programmer can code. To compare it to something more modern, it'd be like if this screen were running Doom. I think I got all that right. Oh hey, we got a trophy for appreciating that Easter egg. Bonus. This crazy machine is a laser spirograph, though it's advanced enough to make complex shapes like the Cooper logo. Finally, there's what Dad figured out you could do with lasers.
How am I supposed to get through this thing? He made this challenge for a move I've never learned. There's nothing like this in the Thieves Raccoonus. Come on, Dad. Help me out here. Those laser beams? Thieving opportunity? You gotta be kidding me.
This isn't just cool, it's downright poetic. The very first hazard we ever faced existing in harmony with the central mechanic of our abilities to bypass them. In addition to that, this finally contextualizes the thieving opportunity sparkles. Sly asks his dad for help, and they appear. They are the spirits of our ancestors guiding our instincts. Long before we knew their names, they've been with us every step, sidle, and spire jump of the way. The only thing that's a little weak sauce here is that this isn't a permanent upgrade we can apply anywhere else. It's only for very specific lasers where it's coded to be possible. Now, this would all indicate that Dr. M certainly wasn't the only brains of the last generation's Cooper gang. An interesting point I never see brought up. The idea that Connor and Dr. M were likely on equal footing, perhaps even seeing each other as intellectual rivals, was likely a huge contributing factor in their falling out. On that same subject, it's entirely possible that M personally sold out Sly's dad to Clockwork and the Fiendish Five, though that is admittedly a fan theory of mine.
This must be the inner sanctum. Wish Bentley and Murray were here for this.
It must be said, that was the best level in the whole trilogy. The zenith of everything Sly was and is, raccoon rolled into a dense narrative package. As with all this game's platforming challenges, we are dared to try it with a time constraint. In addition to that, there's a trophy for completing the whole thing without taking damage, and the true ultimate gauntlet would be to try and take both on at once. This is the longest time limit we've ever had by a huge margin. I believe it's a full 14 minutes. You're more at risk of running out of health than time since the suck system doesn't have you covered, and with no checkpoints, that can be quite the setback. So my best recommendation is to fall back on Murray's golden rule and search for health packs as often as you need them. If you're going for speed, the only tool here that can save off some time is Feral Pounce, but man, can it ever. There are so many opportunities to skip otherwise long stretches of waiting. As for the no damage side of things, there are only a few places I think I can offer any advice other than be careful. Tennessee's railroad slides are weirdly easy to fall off of when jumping between them. Always jump off as you're going down. It gives you the best height advantage without the distance deficit. Anywhere these hooks unclasp, don't waste your time double jumping between them. Just a single jump with good momentum should keep you ahead of the curve. And finally, Dad's laser gauntlet. The key here is not to let yourself slide to the end of any of the lasers. You want to jump off as soon as you have a clear path to the next one, and that should hold you. Now, as we take on our penultimate Master Thief trial, we gotta talk about them. They're actually really clever. While not exactly the incentive to engage more with the level design I know most people prefer, I like to think of that difference for what it represents. The bottles are truly Sly at its most video gamey, a remnant of the series' roots as a collectathon. But the Master Thief challenges are a lot like bonus features on a DVD. In fact, a lot of how this game is presented is very Hollywood box release, scrolling through chapters, concept art, and especially the little bonus movies we've been steadily unlocking as we go. Whether or not there was time to implement the classic collectibles, the change feels, if nothing else, quite deliberate. As for those bonus movies, there are 4 total. Apart from Goodbye My Sweet 1 and 2, we have unlocked the evolution of Sly at this point. Sources say that this unlocks when you complete 90% total game completion, but others say it's after beating this episode, so I can't be entirely certain what the condition is. This is a really fun video, but I don't feel the need to let it play in full or even dive that far into it. Essentially, Nate Fox and Dev Madan watch a reverse timeline of developmental footage, a level that went unused for Sly 2, then several looks at many of the levels from Tide of Terror, 10 months to a year and a half before the first game's release. The most interesting of these is the submarine level, which, if I understand correctly, was planned at this point to be the first level of Tide of Terror, which really speaks to the team's commitment to the vehicle segments from Word 1. Then we see some old testing environments before any of the levels began to take shape, before we finally conclude with Sly's original model. Yeah, he was gonna be a bit chunkier. Now all of that feels a lot more relevant to the first game, and unlike the making of Sly 2, it's much more of a podcasty vibe as Nate and Dev just muse about what's on screen.
Dev, I don't know if you know it, but orange means lava. Lava.
Totally.
Lava is bad for video game characters.
Video game in a video game? Lava.
It is. At least in most video games, that's the case. However, in our game, we decided that it didn't hurt Sly at all.
But if you want to watch it in full, I'll post a link to it in the description. The last bonus video unlocks after achieving 100% completion. I'm showing it now because I'm not sure it's the note I want to end on, but it is amazing. A music video set to Dimitri's Club remix from the second game. Likewise, I don't have much to dive into here, but again, if you want to watch it in full, which I do highly recommend, I'll link it in the description. As long as we're getting the completionist stuff out of the way, I want to take this moment to talk about the last few trophies we have yet to sweep up. A few I never covered, but you doubtlessly picked up, are Thieving Opportunist and the Cooper Special. Every episode has a trophy each for completing all its jobs and all its Master Thief challenges, though on that subject, I was both disappointed and insulted to find that taking no damage on this Master Thief challenge doesn't count for the damage list trophy? You have to do it on the base mission. Come on. The last trophy that's a little obscure is simply for viewing the gallery in every episode, which will net us our Platinum Trophy. I'd say these PS4 and 5 editions are an extremely welcome set of extras, and exactly the sort of thing I'm on record as preferring when it comes to this sort of achievement system. With the exception of 1 or 2 difficulty spikes, I would say they suit the game's sense of style and bonus content like a glove. The presentation is all part of that stylish package, little flourishes in every corner of the UI, from the stills of the characters fading in and out to the sound effects for scrolling through options. No, really. Oh, and one last PSA for the Gauntlet, don't actually skip Henriette's little interactable. You can get through her section just fine without it, but when you get to Tennessee's, his will simply be locked until you go back. Luckily, you can go back. I wonder if this rope is here solely for that purpose. And this is a perfect opportunity to return to that pin we so rudely put in her earlier.
Henriette One-Eye Cooper sailed the seas and stole from pirates. Guess I really take after her.
I like that her pirate flag was on a white field, to really set her apart from the thieves she was stealing from. Seems she lost her hand at some point and replaced her hook-shaped dagger with a classic pirate hook. Instead of being based on any one pirate, she's undoubtedly inspired by pirate queens like Anne Bonny, Grace O'Malley, and Shang Shi, but her role as a pirate hunter of sorts is most comparable to the start of Captain Kidd's career. Her mere presence in this vault is perhaps the most important of all of them. Piracy is a symbol of freedom, camaraderie, wealth, all things that translate well into the life of a modern thief, but there's one trope that's so quintessentially piratical that it's all we thought they did when we were children. Bury treasure. Now obviously in a maritime lifestyle this was done so your booty wouldn't sink to the bottom of the ocean if push came to shove, but that once again throws into stark relief that there's no reason for this grossly opulent stockpile. And I want to call back to the treasure we unearthed during our stint as plunderers. The diving gear represented a lot more than the treasure salvaged from shipwrecks. It wasn't just stolen from Remy, it was stolen from the world, hidden away where no one could benefit, not even the cutthroat who pilfered it. What similar knowledge is tucked away around us? What caches of history have been hidden away for the benefit of every dead and honored Cooper? How much more will meet its end in these caverns? Dr. M stands as the purest extension of the point. He's clearly brilliant, even if his ideas have become twisted. What might he have accomplished had he not spent his life banging on the outer walls, letting slip his grip on humanity?
This is going to be the payday of all time. Think of all the loot piled up back there.
Do you ever feel like you're playing second fiddle to Sly? Like he treats us as sidekicks?
In that one line, we learn that Bentley was listening. Every word, every hasty response, and it's clear it wasn't reassuring. We know Bentley has come perhaps the furthest in his role across these games. Coming out of his shell so many times, he's more nesting doll than turtle, and with Dr. M's dark perspective, it was only natural we reached this point, where Bentley himself questions the status quo.
No way! Sly's cool! We're all in this together!
Sure, we're all here, but are we equal? Who went into the vault? Sly. By himself.
Watch out!
Murray rivals him in the progress he's made, and in a way, he's taken the same journey backwards, accepting every step of the way what he is and what he is not. Like the Panda King, he's embraced every part of himself, but he sees the world in simple terms.
Think of it this way, Bentley. If it were you in that vault and Sly and I were out here, what would he do?
Stop these thugs and protect his friend.
Right, and that's what I'm gonna do. Keep your head down, stay clear. I'm gonna smash a lot of skulls, and I don't want yours to be one of them.
Words are cheap, so he talks with his fists. The last variety of pawn on Dr. M's vivisected chessboard, these mutants are part cobra, part tiger, and part frog, in conjunction with the gator mutants Carmelita dealt with earlier. That fight didn't do them any justice. Both these guards are among the toughest we've ever faced. Fitting for their hybrid designs, they package together a number of properties from several foes throughout the game. The gators can block attacks like golden retrievers, the cobras can emit sound waves like Octavio, and both of them are strong enough to take 2 hits from Murray without falling, something that was once only true of the Canada geese. In fact, these gators don't even get knocked out. The ranged attacks really make this tricky. The tracking on the sound waves is frankly too good, and they can't be interrupted at close range. Then the gators have the ability to break off their regenerating claws and throw them like boomerangs. And finally, this is the biggest crowd of guards we've ever seen in one space, up to 6 at a time, so mindlessly wading in and swinging ain't gonna cut it here. At long last, we have been given the opportunity to cut loose and use every trick in the book. Let fire reign supreme, and let Murray do what he does best.
Yeah! You're all knocked down, and the Murray stands tall, like a freaking totem pole of strongism!
Ah, Murray, you're much stronger than McSweeney ever was.
That's right, plughead! I'm like a semi-truck with its brakes cut!
I don't have time to get into a screaming match with a caveman like yourself.
Then lock horns with me. Think you'll find I'm a better match.
I have no fight with you, Bentley. You and I are the same.
I gather you were the technical specialist working with Sly's father?
Now, this is a real treat. It's all too clear that while Dr. M and Bentley aren't there yet, the mandrill is a representation of what Bentley could become if he let those same envies fester. Bentley deserves to be the leader. He's earned that, but it's not what's important in the face of what he's already gained.
Than that.
Like what?
Like brotherhood.
Brotherhood? That's just what he wants you to think. It's a tool to keep you in line.
Now that's the thing that keeps us happy and alive. It's why I'm going to stop you.
Without the Cooper gang, what is he? An orphaned turtle alone with his intellect. Running with Sly and Murray gave him a home, a family. And that's exactly what he's gonna fight for.
And me too!
Fine, Cooper gang. I tried.
Caveman attack!
I love that Murray just owns it. Hell yeah, I'm a caveman. Unga bunga, come get somega.
Bentley, those statues look like ancient security devices. Maybe if you took the treasure off the top of them and put it on Dr. M's back, they might activate.
This wrestling match actually looks pretty good for what it is. Like, you really get a sense they're pretty evenly matched here. These Cooper diamonds are interesting. You have the ability to put them back, but other than that, they function like pedestal treasure from the second game, being destroyed if you take any damage. You can also do this, which is so much more than I could have hoped for. It's odd that we need to go through this whole booby trap rigmarole. You'd think I could just, like, blast him. Don't worry, Murray, I got him. I'm wearing him down. If you stand on top of them when Murray throws Dr. M up, he'll actually catapult you a bit, too.
I'm pinned down! Need to fall back on my grapple cam to deal with these goons.
Okay, now the real fight starts, and this line here does this sequence such a disservice, because of course you can go to town with your grapple machine gun, but just like Murray's segment, this is a long overdue opportunity for you to go absolutely wild with every toy in your Tinkerer's Trove. You can lay down traps to be triggered at the perfect moment. You can carefully aim a rage bomb and stroll on by when they're otherwise occupied. These elephant mutants are susceptible to everything you can do to them, even pickpocketing if you're truly unconcerned with Murray. They also have a funny interaction with the health extractor. Since they don't have a grunt voice line, they just trumpet over and over again. It's even better if you shrink them first.
Nice work, handsome.
Despite being pretty unorthodox, I think this fight gets everything right. Really gives Bentley and Murray a chance to shine at their best while having a crack at the final boss. But there's one question that presses down from every thematic direction. Isn't this Sly's fight? Isn't the lesson here that they deserve to do this as a team, as equals?
Oh, well played, Bentley. But it was a meaningless gesture. According to the tracking device I planted on Sly's cane, he's just entered the inner sanctum. I can use the collected positional data to get through the gauntlet with ease.
That hall's for Coopers only.
Maybe it's time for men such as you and I to change all that.
He's getting away! What do we do?
I'll think of something. Just give me time.
You know something, Bentley?
What?
You think awesome.
Thanks, pal.
This is just overwhelming. Amazing. How'd Thaddeus make a flying machine in the 1800s? Bet this thing still works.
Oh, I'm sure it's operational.
Dr. M, glad you could see all this. I know you've been looking forward to it.
Looking forward to all this and your death.
Even Dr. M treats Sly as an afterthought in his own story, a fleeting formality. Yeah, I suppose I should kill the main character, I am the final boss after all. Inevitability feels like the right word. Sealed off in the deepest cavern of the vault, trapped with this force of illogical vengeance, there was no avoiding this fight. Words simply fail.
Come on, aren't we supposed to banter a little?
I only talk with my equals, and Bentley said no.
This is a wonderful clash of mechanics. You can really see how hard the developers worked to incorporate many of the game's platforming elements to avoid the trap of this being yet another slugfest. And I think it's especially elegant the way Dr. M utilizes all the most prevalent hazards we've dealt with across all three of our journeys. But there's something hollow about it. What are we fighting for? What ideals are on the line here? Dr. M is merely projecting his anger towards our family onto us. He represents an almost toxic distortion of reputation. All the fame Sly's family has accrued being spit back into his face. We as Sly aren't really defending the Cooper name. In fact, we're literally hiding behind it, using the getaway vehicles of our ancestors as disposable shields against his attacks. There's a pressure here. Accept everything it means to be a part of a legacy, including the retribution for their crimes, or forsake it.
You've got some moxie, Sly. I'll give you that.
I don't know what went down between you and my father, but I'm telling you, it's not the same with me and Bentley.
You might be right. He risked his life to defend you.
I'd do the same for him.
Funny. Your father was never such a good friend.
We're all individuals. I might be part of all this, a member of the Cooper line, but in the end, I'm just me. Not Henriette, Thaddeus, Slytunkhamen, Ryoichi, or my father. Just Sly.
Please, keep your touchy-feely rhetoric to yourself. I can't stomach it. You cruise a bunch of dirty, attention-grubbing thieves! All of you, thieves!
But even if we wanted to, M isn't going to give us that chance. It's cold and dispassionate, nearly an ill-fitting climax for the emotional journey we've taken. The timed Master Thief challenge attached to this fight feels almost more appropriate. A ticking clock and some sort of imminent force might have served as a much-needed third element in this conflict, something to break apart these two opposing forces. But we don't have a timer. Instead...
Hold it right there! Both of you thieves are going to jail.
Nice to see you, gorgeous.
You too.
Oh, a love interest. I might be beaten, but I'll make you suffer.
Not her!
No one hurt my criminal.
One final time, Carmelita steps in to be the true hero of the narrative. Time and time again, she has put her own reputation on the line, and even paid dearly for it, but she does it again without hesitation. The Cooper line stands for everything she opposes, but what's attracted her most to Sly is his capacity to do the right thing. She's always recognized the difference between a criminal and a villain, and if anyone would give Sly the chance to make the right choice, it would be her.
What happened?
Sly?
Where are we? What is this place?
Sly, can you remember anything?
Having ran from more opportunities than he'd care to recount, and having faced death yet again, he chooses, once and for all, her.
No. Who are you? You look familiar.
I'm Inspector Carmelita Montoya Fox.
And who am I?
You're my partner, Constable Cooper.
Well, partner, we'd better get out of here. The ceiling's gonna go. Haven't got much time.
Let's go.
And without a second thought, she accepts it.
Sly! You in here? Sly?
One peculiar point about this final sequence is the back door Carmelita burst in through. Kinda makes sense to have an emergency exit in case of a cave-in or something, but you'd think Dr. M would have found it in his decades on the island. And maybe he did. For that matter, he probably could have tunneled in through any of the walls instead of focusing on the clearly indestructible door, but it's obvious, just like it was never about the treasure, it was never about just getting in. The vault door itself symbolized everything M hated about the Cooper name. Their secrecy, their exclusivity, their greed, and only by getting through the front door, the way a Cooper would he accept it.
We watched as Dr. M just stood there, unwilling to leave as the walls caved in on the vault. He'd spent his life lusting over the Cooper fortune, and he wasn't going to give it up, no matter what the cost. Our exit was a little rough, but Murray managed to get us out just in time to witness the final fate of the Cooper legacy. It was a bittersweet moment. The end of the road always is.
It's our third ever cutscene to be narrated by Bentley. Where first it was out of necessity and then celebration, here it feels like the narrative has shifted focus. Sly has officially stepped out of center stage.
We'd worked for a long time to get Sly into that great vault, and now its secrets were hidden again, this time for good. I could only hope that he'd found what he was looking for in there. We searched every inch of the island for Sly, retrieving the gang one by one, only to make the surprising discovery that he didn't want to be found. As always, he'd left a calling card, only this time, it was worth millions. The months rolled by, and when Sly still hadn't shown up, Murray headed back east to complete his training with the Guru. Without Sly as our leader, for the first time we each had to step out on our own. A difficult thing. We'd been together ever since we met at the orphanage.
The most important takeaway here is that these characters' lives don't stop once Sly steps out of them. It's not easy, it may even be a little sad, but life does go on. Each character sets out on a new chapter of their own. Hey, that's a Speed Racer reference. In the credits, we see Dimitri becoming a celebrity diver, the Panda King retiring to a quiet life screening his daughter's suitors, and the Guru taking on our old friends the Oscars as Dreamtime students, which is genuinely a reference to when the Beatles pursued the teachings of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi over here in our world. And of course, there's Bentley and Penelope.
My new partner in crime. Let me tell ya, I'm in love. She and I have set out on a journey that I never would have dreamed of while running with Sly and Murray, although I hope our paths will cross again soon.
But this wasn't their story. It was Sly's, and this is how it ends. He finally realized, alone in the damp corridors of the vault, that the only ones he could share the riches with in that moment were dead, and that they had likely died for the sake of it. There's a line in one of the movies Sly 3 pays homage to that I suspect had a powerful bearing on this story.
There are two kinds of thieves in this world. The ones who steal to enrich their lives, and the ones who steal to define their lives. Don't be the latter. Makes you miss out on what's really important in this life.
Sly has been that kind of thief all his life. He was born into the role, to steal for the thrill of the lifestyle. But every daring getaway is only daring because of the risks. Dice he's thrown and lost before. That's hard to come to terms with on his own, and even harder to consider that he was gambling with everyone's lives. So, for the sake of not just himself, Sly sets down the impossible weight of reputation he's been fighting to uplift. That which he risked the lives of everyone he cared for in defense of, no longer worried about the people who aren't around to judge him. Maybe he doesn't know who he is without them, but he's finally willing to find out, and to let those he pulled into his thrall be the main characters in their own stories.
So while this might be the end of our adventures together, it could be the start of something even bigger. Time will tell. Literally. 'Cause I'm building a time machine to find out.
Sucker Punch is on record as having left this ending fairly open-ended on purpose, but they always intended Sly 3 to be their last Sly game.
It's useful to move, and it's useful to go somewhere new and have new experiences, and I think that was something that we were pretty clear on, that we knew we were going to do Sly 3, and then we were going to go do new IP.
And if I've heard anyone question this decision, they've simply asked, why? Why conclude here, now, at the top of your game? I think one possibility is that the stories they were interested in telling had essentially outgrown the medium. People will look at you a certain way and think, really? You're playing games like Sly Cooper for the story? But no, I'm not, because there are no games like Sly Cooper, which hide an extremely adult story about the burden of expectations beneath the veneer of a children's mascot platformer. To dismiss all of that based on what it looks like feels incredibly shallow and yet oh so inevitable. You can see it pretty plainly in the types of games they moved on to. The mature tones are matched by the style, and as cool as it is to introduce kids to this sort of thematically dense story, you avoid a lot of derision and dismissiveness in a style that allows for some, well, bloodshed. But I think the larger factor was simply the power that an ending has, and that would only diminish if this series were perpetuated. I remember a time when series like Assassin's Creed and the Marvel Cinematic Universe were all but universally acclaimed. Yet now, reviews of every release are filled with critics insisting that this is the one that finally recaptures the magic. Such praise quietly swept under the rug when the next title gets adorned with the same laurels. I don't want to be overly critical of what boils down to good business. There's undoubtedly demand, but these aren't just products. They're stories. And a story without an ending is little more than a setting. It's hard to see a character you love through thick and thin only to see them take their final bow, but in perhaps the most ironic line to come out of the MCU,
but a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
Maybe the next game would be just as good, or the next one after that, but just like the Cooper lineage, this isn't sustainable. Is it really preferable to milk it for all it's worth? To urge it forward long after the original creators have moved on? I don't think every series we love needs to last forever. Eventually, it's okay to let the curtain fall, to accept a finale. At its core, Sly 3 is about its own ending. taking the journey with him that encapsulates the experience of both the players and the creators learning to let go. No one loves Sly Cooper more than Sucker Punch, but it's because of that they didn't want his story to carry on indefinitely, that they wanted his greatest feat to be the time he beat the odds and stole his own happy ending. And in doing so, ironically, secured the legacy of the series.
That sneaky devil.
But what would an ending be without the credits? I have my own incredible list of people to thank for making this series what it is. Starting first and foremost with the delightful and talented Eagerlith, my co-editor, the voice of Juicy Phoebe, my partner in crime, and walking encyclopedia on all things fishy. I also want to give one last thank you to Mythology and Gaming for the use of his vast archive of folklorific knowledge. He really deserves a lot more attention for his work than he gets. And it wouldn't feel right closing out this video without singing the praises of B-Mask. My own thoughts on this game's brilliant writing would have never come together so clearly if not for how erudite and articulate he was in his own coverage of the trilogy. I highly recommend checking out his videos if you've somehow yet to see them. And in addition to them, I owe a tremendous pile of thanks to all of you for seeing it through to the end, and especially my legendary patrons for giving me the freedom to strike out on this path. My most excessive thank yous to Amiri the Grey, and if I had a nickel for every time I met someone as amazing, I'd have 5 cents. Raven, who you can find on Google Earth in over 5,000 different locations. Raisinbran, who caught the eye of Narcissus once, and let's just say the reflection lost its luster after that. RPG Grenade can code a UI in the blink of an eye. Rockington can open any jar in a single twist. Alec, Seeker of Shine Sprites, who could tell you where El Dorado is. He'll say he can't, he'll say I'm lying, but trust me. Chugs, the world's first swashbuckaroo, equally adept at high noon duels and high seas warfare. Meryl Hainsworth, who knows how to use a semicolon correctly. Strangebird, the inspiration for both Doctor Strange and Doctor Strangelove. The royalties are insane. Steve, who is a very, very good boy. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Sea Salt Trio, patented good mornings. Think about that the next time you have one. And Lotta Otter, who can sting like a butterfly and float like a bee. Unorthodox perhaps, but the results speak for themselves. More obsessive shoutouts to Busy Town, Chris Braydell, Doc Crimson, Eric Lee, Fundeldor, Jay Wibbs, Kane Lowind, Kinoi-san, Pagigallo, Quoth, Red Panda King, Remus, Sato DeSable, Sean Flowers, Scar Million, Tabriz Sadiq, 10-Beat, Undead Crisis, Zere, and the rest of the splendid 2C Cooper gang. That'll catch on. I almost made it the whole series without saying the real treasure was the friends we made along the way. And I will see you in the next one.